What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. I read the title today. I have 5 potential breakout players for you in the 2025 MLB season. Season's approaching quickly, so I picked out 5 guys that I view as candidates to potentially break out in 2025. How do I define a breakout? A player that doesn't have an all-star appearance that I think could have an all-star appearance this season. Obviously, once you make an all-star game, it feels like you've kind of broken out. Like, comment, subscribe, specifically like, and comment, tell me where I went wrong, tell me where I've gone right, tell me why my picks are wrong, or maybe even leave your own potential breakout candidate down in the comments. If you have a guy that you think could even break out beyond what I'm thinking or beyond what anybody else is thinking, let me know. We can have a nice conversation down below, but we're going to start it off at number 5. It is Hunter Brown from the Houston Astros. 2023 was Hunter Brown's first chance as a big leaguer. He pitched 155 innings, he had an ERA over 5 and a whip at 1.36. Not ideal, but only 24 years old, so that makes sense. 2024, at the age of 25 years old, Brown pieced together a very solid season. His ERA dropped down to a 3.49, and his whip fell to 1.27 over 170 innings. He threw more innings, had a better ERA. He was way better in 2024 than he was in 2023. Now, why do I expect big things in 2025? The big difference between 2023 and 2024 for Hunter Brown was his ability to induce soft contact and dodge barrels. In 2023, Brown was in the 9th percentile in barrel rate and 13th percentile in hard hit rate. That jumped to the 93rd percentile in barrel rate and 97th in hard hit rate. That's an amazing jump in just one offseason. As a result, Hunter Brown's exit velocities went from 8th percentile to the 95th percentile. He really started inducing more weak contact last season. It was really nice to see for the Houston Astros, especially in a park where if you pull a ball as a right-handed hitter, you're probably going to get a home run. So it's nice to see that he can induce soft contact because that stadium doesn't hold loud contact very well. The biggest reason why was that Hunter Brown added a sinker to his pitch mix that he predominantly uses to induce weak contact on right-handed hitters. Jesus, that was way too hard to say. Hunter Brown also added a changeup to his pitch mix, predominantly to be used against left-handed hitters. It worked out very well, as hitters had an expected slugging percentage of .271 against his changeup. That's very good. Another sign of encouragement for me was Brown's ability to pitch well in the playoffs. In his only playoff start of 2024 against the surging Detroit Tigers, he threw 5 2/3 innings with only 1 earned run and 9 strikeouts. Very impressive stuff from a guy who was in not his first playoffs because he did pitch in 2023, but it was his first playoffs as a great pitcher, as a good pitcher. The thing that I think could change Hunter Brown's season, in my opinion, is if he can get his K rate up. He has a very high velocity fastball, 96 miles per hour, that he uses in the upper part of the zone, obviously, and he pairs that with a nice changeup and a nice off-speed mix as well. And the sinker as well induces the weak contact. So if he can induce a strikeout with that high fastball, he can go back to the sinker, probably get you to roll it over or jam you, either one. He will get players out with soft contact. The one thing that worries me, in my opinion, with Hunter Brown is the fact that I don't think the Astros infield and outfield unit will be as good defensively this season as it was last season. You lose Kyle Tucker. Now you have Isaac Paredes and maybe Smith at third base. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Obviously, I love Christian Walker, but I don't love Jose Altuve in left field. Really weird spot going on over there. That whole left side of their infield and outfield definitely feels like a question mark defensively in my eyes. So if you can get that K rate up, you just avoid putting the ball in play altogether, and obviously it helps out your defense a lot that they don't have to make the plays. I think Hunter Brown is a very high ceiling type pitcher. He has a really good pitch mix, and like I said, that changeup against lefties is mean. Plus, I think the Astros pitching development team is very good. They've helped some pitchers take steps up. I debated between him and Spencer Arrighetti because I believe either one of them could really have a great season this upcoming year for them. But Hunter Brown, I anticipate, will be their ace down the line, as it appears they are not interested in talking extension with Framber Valdez. I'm projecting a very good season for Hunter Brown. Maybe an ERA in the low 3s. He was at 3.6 last season. I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that he could go down to a 3.2, maybe 3.1. The whip also needs to go down a little bit too. 1.27 isn't particularly bad, but it's not really good either. To stake your place in the elite pitcher ranks, in my opinion, your whip has to be closer to like a 1.1 than a 1.3, and Hunter Brown was a little bit close to a 1.3, which isn't ideal. Simply put, just a very good pitcher who I think uses his fastball to his advantage. He's very good at what he does. He induces the weak contact when he needs to, and he can get the strikeout when he needs to. Specifically in the playoffs, striking out a lot of that Tigers team who was very contact heavy and didn't strike out a lot. That was a very impressive playoff start, and in my opinion, that kind of opened my eyes to him being potentially their next franchise ace. Can move on and talk about number 2 on the list. It is Ryan Pepiot from the Tampa Bay Rays. Before last season, Ryan Pepiot had 10 career starts with the Dodgers. 10 in 2 seasons at the major league level. Just last season alone, he had 26 starts as a Ray. In those career best 26 starts, he had 130 innings pitched and an ERA plus at 1.11. That's an ERA at 3.6. with a career high in innings and a whip at 1.15, which is beautiful in my opinion. That career high in innings didn't necessarily seem to affect him very much. He didn't really slow down. In the second half, he sort of did. We could talk about that in a little bit. However, the signs of encouragement that I have in Ryan Pepiot is when the second half came, he cut down on his slider usage and upped the usage of his cutter. In that same span where he stopped using the slider and started going to the cutter more, his ERA went down by 1 whole point. That's pretty good. The downside with Pepiot, in my opinion, though, is that in his last 6 starts, you'll see that he walked 14 hitters. That's just way too many. That's dancing with way too much trouble on the base paths. As much as I love Ryan Pepiot, he's got to cut down on that walk rate. However, I think some of that could also be attributed to fatigue. This is a guy who, again, was a bullpen guy until last season when he got moved to a starter. As in the starter role, he was amazing, don't get me wrong, but you've definitely seen guys who started as relievers move to starters struggle down the stretch. You see guys like Jordan Hicks, who got shut down from starting altogether in the second half. Same with a guy like Reynaldo Lopez. You saw him down that back leg of the season start to really not fall off, but he definitely wasn't as dominant. Another sign of encouragement that I have is a lot of his runs and a lot of his hard hit balls were in weird specific instances last year. For instance, with 2 outs, he definitely struggled to finish innings. 9 of his 17 home runs he allowed last season were with 2 outs in the inning. So I don't know what that's about, but he's struggling to just finish innings. Hitters had an OPS of a 770 with 2 outs in an inning against Ryan Pepiot. That's just inexcusable, but I don't even know how that happens. What really interests me with Pepiot, though, is that his changeup really wasn't that great last year, despite that being one of his best pitches and the pitch that he was really known for in the minor leagues. They gave his changeup a 70 grade when he was a minor leaguer, so it really definitely feels weird to me that all of a sudden his changeup isn't as electric as it once was. He throws it similarly to how Devin Williams throws his. So I don't know why it's not as effective. However, he does play for the Tampa Bay Rays, and their pitching lab's pretty good in my opinion. With McClanahan down, Pepiot's set to be their opening day starter now, which is very interesting. I think there's a very, very good chance that he has a good year this year. It all starts with game 1, though. Also gets really good extension. He's in the 79th percentile in extension. He's very good at inducing swings and misses, but his only downside was last year is that if they connected, they were bruising the ball. He was actually in the 22nd percentile in barrel rate. But his hard hit rate was only in the 64th percentile, so closer to middle of the pack. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But a whiff rate in the 82nd percentile and a strikeout rate in the 74th percentile definitely shows some signs of improvement for a former reliever in his first season as a starter. Plus, too many fly balls. He's going to be playing in a minor league park this year at George Steinbrenner Field with the Rays not having a home stadium. So I don't think fly balls will be playing very well at a minor league park, specifically one that's detailed as like Yankee Stadium essentially. So he's going to need to up his ground ball rate, which was only in the 10th percentile. However, if you can just strike guys out, you don't really need to induce a ground ball if you can just get 3 strikes. With a plus fastball, a cutter that could be coming into the fold and become one of his best pitches, and a changeup that was, again, given a 70 grade as a prospect, I really think that there's a lot of room for improvement for Ryan Pepiot, and I think that he could have a breakout season this year. Maybe not an all-star, but I view him as like he could put up a 3 ERA somewhere in the low 3s. But that whip at a 1.1 was very impressive. At number 3 on the breakout player list, I have Patrick Bailey from the San Francisco Giants. Doesn't everyone just love a defensive catcher? You all love Jeff Mathis, right? Patrick Bailey's on par with a lot of those elite defensive catchers that you know. The guy was one of the best defensive players in baseball last season. I don't mean catchers. He was one of the best defensive players in baseball last season. Elite framing catcher, elite caught stealing numbers, and a mid-bat. Don't you just love that? We've seen archetypes like this before. A defensive-minded catcher who's great defensively but can't hit a ball. You've seen that with like Tucker Barnhart, Martin Maldonado, to name a few. But I think there's more to Pat Bailey's game than just elite defense and a mid-bat. But that's not to ignore the defense. I mean, for Christ's sake, the guy was in the 100th percentile for fielding run value. That means he might have been the best defensive player in baseball last season. One of the best, probably 3. But the hitting side was where really the question marks start. In the first half of 2024, Pat Bailey had an OPS at 784. That's a career high. It would have been a career high if the season had stopped at midseason. Unfortunately, it doesn't. The OBP at 354 as well in the first half plays very well. 354 on base for a catcher is pretty good for a guy who calls a game at an elite level. The second half was very ugly. He fell off a very steep cliff, to be honest with you. His OPS was at 434, way below average, and his OBP fell all the way down to 217, which is pitiful, to be frank. But if you look at the batted ball data, aka his Savant page, you'd see it's actually not as ugly as you think it was. Patrick Bailey had a squared up rate in the 78th percentile with an average exit velo in the 84th percentile and a launch angle sweep spot percentage in the 83rd percentile. Sorry for the stutter. And there's also some signs of improvement in his game as well. Between 2023 and 2024, Patrick Bailey upped his walk rate by about 4% and lowered his K rate by about 6%. So he's shown the ability to make changes when needed. He's making more contact, and I think he's making better quality contact with the ball, which is all that needs to be shown. That's what the process is being able to hit the ball as hard as possible. Also, I think something that really interests me about him this season was he went and hired a nutritionist to help him out with his dieting and such. Obviously, that's what a nutritionist does. But it should help him because he himself said that he started to fatigue out in the back half of last season. So hiring a guy that can better manage your diet, hopefully that will help you be able to complete a full season at an elite level rather than, kind of falling off like he did. And this isn't just a one-year thing with the second half struggles, by the way. In the front half of 2023, he was also a very good hitter and fell off in the back half. So this isn't really new for him. He also struggled to hit sliders. His run value against sliders was a negative number, which isn't ideal. So he definitely struggled to hit sliders, but the cutters, he was munching. He was eating cutters up well. He hit fastballs relatively well. So I don't view him as a negative hitter, to be honest with you. I see the numbers and see, well, he finished with a OPS, I think sub 700, which is definitely not good. But I think there's reason to be optimistic about Patrick Bailey's hitting. Patrick Bailey can give you a full season of being like a 105, 110 OPS plus type of guy. You're talking about one of the best three catchers in baseball, in my opinion, seeing as how valuable he is defensively and how elite he is. He is the best defensive catcher in baseball. You add in an above-average bat, even if it's 5 to 7 points above average, that's one of the best catchers in baseball. And there's proof in the pudding, man. He's seeing the ball better with his ability to cut down his strikeout rate and turn up his walk rate. It means he's seeing the ball better, and now it's just about hitting the ball harder. And I think that's the overall message that he's been working on this spring. The nutritionist definitely helps getting his diet right. I think Pat Bailey has big things in store for this 2025 campaign, especially with guys like Adames and Chapman helping him out now. Well, Chapman was there last year, obviously, but Adames is a power bat in the lineup, and Pat Bailey doesn't need to really be a power bat. He can play the game however he wants to. Just get on base. Moving away from Pat Bailey, we talk about number 4, another catcher. It's Ivan Herrera from the St. Louis Cardinals. From a pretty soft-hitting catcher who's one of the best framing and defensive catchers in baseball to a catcher who has some defensive question marks but definitely hits the ball really well. I love Ivan Herrera. I think his game's very good. In my opinion, there's a reason why the Cardinals moved away from Wilson Contreras and moved Contreras to first base. It's because they knew they had a guy like Ivan Herrera who could play there for a full season and maybe put up good numbers. In 72 games last year, Herrera had a 124 OPS plus with 5 homers, 12 doubles, 25 walks to 53 strikeouts. He's shown a decent eye, but he also has some power in there as well, a couple extra base hits in there. Herrera also did a really good job at pulling the ball last year. He had a pull percentage of 24% of all his balls in play. That's a positive because catching the ball on the pull side is a good thing, kids. While obviously I'm not going to overanalyze a 70-game sample, you can also look down to his season in the minor leagues and see that, well, he was actually pretty decent down in the minor leagues as well. In 83 games at AAA in 2023, he had an OPS at 950. Very good. Then in 27 games at AAA in 2024, he OPS'd at 875. Of course, minor league numbers aren't always the most sticky and definitely don't paint the full picture. However, OPSing over 900 in a damn near a full season at AAA is very impressive. Herrera has a good eye, like I mentioned before, but his walk rate's almost at 10% and his K rate's at 20.5%, which is good, respectable. Of course, the defense is definitely a little bit more shoddy. However, their alternative was Wilson Contreras, who also doesn't really play good defense. So it was a really good move moving Contreras to first. You open up a spot for Herrera, who can definitely fill in and play a quality catcher, in my opinion. Overall, I think he has a really good chance to make a name for himself on a pretty bad Cardinals team, all things considered. There's ample opportunity for him to play. He's going to be their everyday catcher. Him and I forget who the other one's name is. I'm forgetting right now. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to keep this section short, although I like Ivan Herrera and I think he's a very talented player. I choose not to overly talk about him because he hasn't even crossed 100 total games at MLB. So I don't have a ton of sample to work with here. I'm not going to blow up a sample of 70 games. However, in those 70 games, he was pretty decent. His expected batting average was at 293. His xWOBA was at 366. That's actually kind of elite. His launch angle sweet spot, 38.2. That puts him in the top 25% of baseball, I'd say. Bat speed at 73.3, that's plus bat speed. So I'm not saying that bat speed definitely is an indicator of being a good player, but it definitely can help you. And plus, if it's basically a 2-to-1 ratio, strikeouts to walks, that's a plus from a catcher. He's still only 24 years old, even though he's played in MLB for 3 seasons now, 22 to 2024, and he still hasn't even crossed the 100 games played mark yet. It's not bad. Number 5 on this list is Jacob Wilson from the Sacramento Athletics, the Athletics. Now it's time for my annual rookie pick, Jacob Wilson, son of Pirates legend Jack Wilson. Yeah, I said legend. He's been on my radar for a while, if I'm being honest with you. I had a script written months ago where I said Jacob Wilson was going to be my Rookie of the Year pick. He has a very good eye, and that's something I like to look for in young talent. I believe the ability to just see the ball is the biggest thing in baseball. In 28 big league games last year, Wilson had 8 walks and only 10 strikeouts, which tracks. In his 3 seasons at the collegiate level, he had 61 walks to only 31 strikeouts. That's ridiculous. Then in the minor leagues, Wilson only had 20 walks to 26 strikeouts. His ratios are pretty consistently good. The issue with him, though, is that he's only been a contact hitter throughout college and the minor league level. He only has 30 total homers between college, minors, and major leagues. 30 total. That's like 8 seasons. But his average has been good, and he's played a plus shortstop position. He has very good arm strength. Although it's like middling speed, he has very good arm strength, so that definitely helps make up for it. But I really jumped onto the train after I saw what he's done in spring training. He's hitting the ball a lot harder in spring training. He has 4 home runs in 18 spring training games, and he's only struck out twice. And I watched a mid-game interview he did with Dallas Braden, of course, the A's announcer, where he talked about how it's just about making overall better contact. Him and the A's are working on making optimized contact and making overall better contact, not just aiming to hit home runs. So although he has hit 4 home runs in spring training, it's more of a byproduct of putting in a better process or becoming better at hitting the ball harder. So although he does have 4 spring training home runs, it's more so a byproduct of him just hitting the ball harder rather than him aiming or trying to up his home run rate. Like I said before, he plays a decent shortstop. He doesn't have the best speed element, but he makes it work with an above average arm in the 84th percentile. That's very respectable. Plus, they're playing in a minor league park this season. That definitely helps out a little bit as well. I think he can be more comfortable on a team that really doesn't have many expectations in the A's. My expectations for Wilson aren't too high, all things considered. I don't expect him to go out there and put up like a 6-WAR season. He's not a Bobby Witt Jr. type where he's going to pop on year 2 or whatever and put up a 10-WAR year. I just don't see that in the cards for him, really. But I think if he hits his ceiling, I think he can be like a supercharged Geraldo Perdomo type, or maybe like an upgraded Orlando Arcia type. I think he's better than your average shortstop, but I don't think he's going to be the Witts or the Hendersons of the world. He just really needs to turn his ground ball rate into some more line drives and fly balls, specifically line drives, because if he doesn't aim for home runs and his goal is to just make great contact, well, it can't be on the ground. He had a 51% ground ball rate. That's not ideal. But if he can turn some of those ground balls into a few more line drives, like I said, we're talking about a very plus shortstop here for Oakland. Sacramento. Sorry, force of habit. There's plenty signs of improvement in Jacob Wilson's game, and plus that eye. I love an eye in a young player, a guy who can just see the ball well, because if you can have an at-bat, if you can have a major league at-bat, there's value in having an 8-9 pitch at-bat. It wears that starter down. Plus, being the son of a one-time all-star in the MLB is definitely a very good plus. The A's seem to hold him very high. I think he'll be their opening day shortstop. Definitely makes sense to me. They didn't really have much production there last year. So with him getting ample opportunity on a team playing in a minor league field, I think there's a real chance that Jacob Wilson could break out. He might have an all-star season this year. I don't know. Like I said, man, sign me up for somebody who's like supercharged Orlando Arcia or something like that. A shortstop who plays a good shortstop without being the fastest guy in the world. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to go catch a game. See you guys in the next one.